And we're live.
Yeah, so as far as like getting a silly tattoo or getting breast implants, or like my cousin and I used to do this thing, like we'd see like a pile of dog shit and just jokingly as like teenagers be like, how much would it take to eat that, bro? And like I'd be like,
So what is that though? Okay, so this is what I've noticed. This is interesting. This is just for me. So like being in a whole bunch of different kind of diverse locker rooms, like the white dudes have these kind of conversations all the time. Like I would walk in, it'd be 6 in the morning, and they'd be like, Aaron, bro, would you rather suck a goat dick or drink cow ball juice? And I'm like, why are y'all thinking about this shit at 6 a.m.? But it's like all the time. But like, I noticed why do y'all have these things?
So you guys don't get together and talk about what inappropriate elective surgeries you would have for money?
It's just definitely new territory.
I think life is just too easy for white people. And we've got a lot of time on it. We don't have to worry about like we get pulled over and we're like, oh, this is going to be a 10-minute inconvenience. Like, life is just a little bit easier for us. So we got to come up with something to fill the gaps.
What do black people talk about? You've been in a lot of locker rooms. You've identified white patterns. Carry on.
So we more like cultural things. So like we'll talk about like the albums that are out, the celebrities that are doing things, sometimes culture, politics, things like that. But the fringe conversations is what I'm talking about, because the white folks talk about that too. But I'm saying like the oddball shit that y'all talk about is like I've never. It's
I just like
this
to
unique.
It's a thing.
Stuff. Help me. I need to earn my hood pass.
I think it gives you some insight into the other person and where they are. Like some people are. I don't like the word homophobic because I think there are very, very few people who are like scared of gay people. But I think there's a ton of people who like are disgusted and or hate gay people for one reason or another. Like we need a new word for what we use homophobia for. But I think it's fun to like see just how like to that side someone is, and how. Because I think that's also a sign of how insecure someone can be about either their masculinity or their sexuality, right? Like that big tough guy who's like, no, never would I. You wouldn't even touch the dick? Never. Like you just gotta tap it like you poop a dog's nose, man. You wouldn't do that? Like
it's interesting. I just don't think it ever comes up. It never comes up. Like, would you suck a how much would you suck a dick for? Like it just never it never came up unless I was around
white people. Yeah.
I bet Terry Crews has been asked that question.
Possibly.
I got a question, Arian. So this comes from my high school. In my high school, in the cafeteria, people self-segregated by race. Does that happen in the locker room?
That's a great question, actually. I think it's just a byproduct of America, man. You feel more comfortable around the people that you normally congregate with. So I don't think it's anything intentional, because I think, especially with sports, it's kind of like a unifier in the country.
Right.
So I don't think it's anything like intentional, but like more often than not, you'll kind of congregate with your.
And that's not just in locker rooms. Like they say, like the most segregated time in America is Sunday morning, for church. Because it tends to be all black churches and all white churches, and that's not like anybody's forcing them to separate or anything. It just kind of pans out that way.
I'm nowhere near religious, right? But I've been to black churches for sure. So the first time I went to like a white church was when I was in college, and that's why I really knew they were like totally different. So we had to go to church for college. Like they made us go early when I was a freshman before I decided to protest that. They made us go, and I saw. There was, I don't know if this is super prevalent. I doubt it was extremely, they were doing a lot. But there was this dude dressed up as Elvis, and he was dancing around the stage.
The Elvis deacon. This is part of every white church. Go on.
But it was like my first experience with like a white church, and he was singing a song called "Leaving Lust Vegas."
And I was church.
Baby, I may be the king of rock and roll.
He was doing that whole.
He's the king of men. He's the king of Lord.
He did that whole spiel, and he was like leaving Lust Vegas, and I fell out laughing, and they were looking at me like I was being disrespectful, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Hey, you find something funny about the Lord, buddy?
It Tongue's hilarious, man.
I definitely prefer. I've been to white churches and black churches. I definitely preferred my experience at the black church. Like growing up, I went to a white church, and we had a choir, and there would be songs, but everybody's really reserved. Everybody's sitting there, and you clap and you sing along, and there might be 5 songs. I went to a black church in Atlanta with my girlfriend 2 or 3 times a few years back, and it was like a concert. It was like an R&B concert. Like there was a lot less fire and brimstone and a lot more like, let's dance and sing about Jesus. And I was into it. Like everybody, every black person can sing. I don't know what that's about. All right. Like you look up the ushers over there. He's hitting notes like Barry White. The whole fucking choir is fucking killing it. And you're just like, God.
I have a friend, my buddy who kind of made a lot of the music that's on my album. Actually, he grew up in the church, and he was saying, he plays the piano, and he was saying like some of the best musicians he's ever met in his life are from the church. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
do black churches have people who speak in tongues? Or is that just a white church thing?
I don't want to be like the representative for black churches because I didn't go to church like that. But from what I've
friend,
it's better to represent black churches.
I'm the token
guy. Than an atheist. Yeah,
right. Super qualified.
Yeah,
but yeah, speaking in tongues shit, absolutely, that shit happens.
That blew my mind the first time I went to a friend's church when I was little, because my church didn't do the speaking in tongues thing. It was a lot of the fire and brimstone and putting the fear of God in you. And you went there, and it was even scarier than the fear of God, because to like as a kid to see adults standing up like doing like just making up shit and like waving their hands and stuff, like it made me feel like I didn't like really buy into the whole demon thing until right now. Like, is that one? Like, this is horrifying. And then, like, the older I got, the more I was like, these fuckers, you're just making this up. You've used the same few sounds multiple times. You do the humana thing, like when you're like, as if God's like, not telling you what to say fast enough.
Yeah, it would always sound the same. It would be like, Hollandai, Hollandai. And you'd look at this guy, and this is like a 50-year-old man who's sweating and red-faced with both hands in the air, and he's like vibrating with intensity. And I'm 8 years old. You're like, holy shit! I hope that doesn't happen to me. I'm not gonna read any more of this book.
Say I'm out.
I always remember that same thing of like the speaking in tongues and like people in church who would like make a scene of like putting their hands up and like being in the front so that people behind them could like see like, wow, look at Alan. He's really in with God. He's really doing this. And it's like, even as like a 13-year-old, it was like, we just did a lesson last week about, the Lord saying, if you are to pray, do not do it in front of others, because that is hypocritical. It makes you like a Pharisee. Instead, go into your room in private and do it alone. And it's like, you're doing exactly what Jesus told you not to do, making a big song and dance about it and making sure everybody sees who the good guy is. It's like, no.
I remember I went to a Catholic church when I was real little.
Oh, that's so boring.
Catholic, but it's so exhausting. I just like they get up and they get down. They have those little like pull out things where you can kneel, and so you have to kneel, you have to get up, you have to sit down, you have to kneel. And it's just like I'm like, it's not even. I don't think it's worth it.
You didn't have the fitness for it.
I had to go to hell. I wasn't there. That's
over the years. I pocketed at least $25 that my mom gave me to put into the thing. Because after a few times, it was just like, God doesn't need this. He's like, I don't have a projector. I don't have dope shit.
Woody, I'm going to need you to ask your father what is going to befall Taylor for literally stealing from God.
Stole from the
you
Lord
want me to
above.
Ask my father?
I want him to ask what circle of hell a man like Taylor is going to be cast down into, who literally stole from Jesus Christ.
Hey, I didn't put it in and take it out. I just kept it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sure the Lord will see it that way.